Guys, this is going to be my Jeff the Killer fanfic. It's based off of a dream I had. Okay, so here we go. I still remember it like it was yesterday, the first time me and Veronica ran into Jeff. Despite the fact that he was so sadistic, she insisted on helping him. He had been burnt to a crisp. Later on we learned that this was from his battle with Slenderman. I didn't understand why she had such a drive to save him, but then again I didn't understand Veronica's drive for lots of things. Wanting to save animals that had hurt humans, wanting to save serial killers. But since she long since accepted my bad qualities, I had to accept the ones about her I wasn't too fond about. We nursed Jeff back to health. His face was still scarred from what he had done, and his eyes, I'll never forget them. But despite all this, I grew close to him as well, taking care of him on days when Veronica couldn't. As time grew, he became as though he was part of us. Even to the point where me and Veronica decided to move in together, we took him with us. One day, I noticed them starting to get closer and closer, and closer still, yet it didn't bother me until I saw them kiss. And I realized I had loved him. I started exchanging letters with him. He exchanged back, telling me that he did have feelings for me as well as her. After one night, I realized that he just slept with her. I stared at him for a moment. "What?" he sharply said. I didn't say anything back. I journeyed past him to the bathroom, feeling him grabbed at me. "What?" he said again. I ignored him and jerked past him. I had to accept this. They were closer than me and him were. After my bath, I laid in my room. I heard a slight rap on my door. I didn't answer at first. Then I heard the door being pushed open. It was Jeff. He came in. Me and him began talking, and I ended up sleeping with him as well. The next day when I had woken up next to him, I got up, and I did as I normally did in the mornings, making me, Veronica, and him breakfast. Although I'd started to feel a sense of guilt, we'd been sneaking behind Veronica's back for quite some time, and I started to feel as though I was just doing it out of jealousy. I wrote him a letter. Every time I wrote him a note, there was a word written on it. This one was entitled Lust. "Jeff, I love you, but I know she loves you more. If it hadn't been for her, you wouldn't be alive. She is the one who wanted to save you. And I just became jealous because I fell in love with you. But she is what's best for you, so I must stop this secret relationship. Forgive me." I got a letter back from him, although I was very shocked when I saw it. The letter heading on it was, "You're selfish." It was written in blood. My heart raced. I could hear him, "Go to sleep. Go to sleep." Almost as though he was in my ear. I didn't know what to do at this point. Fear had started to take over, until my eyes, they just seemed to die for a moment. I heard Veronica in the other room. She was gurgling, as if she was struggling to breathe. I took a deep breath. "You don't sound so good," I called out to her. "I'll get you some water from the kitchen." Instead, I grabbed a can of gasoline and headed for the door. I closed the door behind me, put gasoline around the perimeter of the house, lit a match, and dropped it. If I thought there was any chance that she was still alive, I would have tried to save her. But the moment I looked to my right, I could see he had slashed her throat open into a T shape. I think what I said set him off. I watched the house burn down. I didn't hear any screams, so I knew Veronica was gone. Jeff, as numb as he was used to being burned. I walked away. The very next day I moved out to Tokyo, to leave America behind and forget about everything. So far, my life in Japan was going great. I didn't have a care in the world. I once in a while thought about Veronica and how proud she would be, and that she would want to be here with me. I put pictures of her up all around my room, to the point where people actually asked if we were dating. I told them no, she was just a good friend from my past life. The day came in Japan to celebrate the Day of the Dead. So I took a few things that I knew Veronica would like to celebrate her passing. I was standing by the river watching cherry blossoms flow until I felt something behind me. It was a radiating presence. I turned around. It was her. She was donning a Nakajuban that looked just like the one Hellgirl wears in the animes. For a minute I wondered if my grief had driven me crazy. But I looked, and no, it was her. "Veronica?" I said. "Hello, Jasmine." "Are you mad at me for what I did?" She looked at me for a moment. "I can't ask you to forgive me. I'd hate me too. I hate myself now. But I know that's not enough for you. Your life was taken away." She gently put both hands on my shoulders and looked at me in the eye. She said, "I was angry with you. Not for what you did with Jeff, but for what happened after. But I knew that you didn't know that I was still alive, so I was able to forgive you." I hugged her. "I've missed you so much." "I know. I've been watching over you since you've been here, and I decided to appear to you today." "I'm so sorry, Veronica. I don't know why I had the urge to be with him. Just like me, you have a lot of passion, even though you hide your passion." "It's okay. I'm back on this earth as a physical being." "You're a light demon." "Yes, I am. I guide all the fallen children to their final resting place in Japan." "Will you stay with me now?" "You're always welcome. I still have a few of your things." I knew that that's the way you would have wanted it. She smiled at me. I continued about the festival as usual, with her following me. No one else, of course, could see her. I would talk to her anyway, though. I didn't care what people thought. In fact, since today was the Day of the Dead, they assumed that I was talking to a fallen friend anyways, so it wasn't so strange as it usually would have been considered. I took her back to my apartment. A small place, but it did have a bathroom and a shower, and that's all I asked for. I didn't care if it was in a bad part of Japan. I know that in Japan most houses don't have bathrooms. I'm not sure if that's changed nowadays, but I couldn't handle using a communal bath. I'm still very self-conscious. "So this is where you live," she said as she sat down Japanese style on the floor. "Yeah," I said, making us both some Japanese green tea. I sat there speaking with her for a while. I asked her what it was like to die, how she was when she forgave me, and we just talked all night long. Me and her, back when she was alive, used to talk on the phone for hours at a time. So me and her spoke. It was nice. I felt at peace. The next day I had school, however, and I was getting ready. "You attend a high school here?" she said. I looked at her. "What do you mean? You're wearing a school uniform." Silly light demon," I said, joking with her. "You must know that some schools around here, even colleges, require uniforms." And she said, "Right." She just gently giggled. I got ready, and I told her to have a nice day. She had more children to guide today. As sad as it is, that children commonly don't like to go to their resting place in Japan, so she guides them and plays with them until they feel better, and they're okay with dying. It was late at night when I finally managed to get home. I'd been held hostage at school, helping out with all the school events, and since I was in such a good mood, I was more than happy to do it. I heard someone walking up to me, but I didn't think anything of it. Usually this is where Japanese businessmen walked to get home, and schoolgirls ran trying to beat their curfew before their parents could get angry with them. But this was different. This person, they were wearing a white hoodie. The hood was pulled up, and I could see long black hair. When they smiled, I realized who it was. "No." "Jasmine," he said, "you must know that I'm quite used to getting burned, although I don't really appreciate you trying to kill me." "I didn't know what else to do. I saw what you did to Veronica." "I couldn't handle not having both of you, you know," he said. I looked at him. I said, "Is that so?" He said, "Yes, that's so. So I decided that we were all going to sleep together. Once I put Veronica to sleep, I was going to come get you and put you to sleep. Then I was going to go to sleep with you. I had already had it all planned out, but you had to ruin everything, so I had to come looking for you." I looked at him. "I don't want to go to sleep, Jess, and I know she didn't either." I stepped back. He advances closer to me. In a burst of light that's similar to the sun rising over cherry blossoms in Nagoya, very beautiful. Veronica appeared. "Not another step, Jeff," she says. Jeff smiles. "Veronica, I've missed you." He smiled. I guess he wanted her to be happy to see him, but her eyes just filled with hate. "Jeff, leave now. I don't want to have to hurt you, but I will." "I came here to be with you. I came here to be with Jasmine, to let her know that I was sorry." I looked at Veronica. I could tell she could tell what I was thinking. Any reject to his advances might lead to him flipping out again, so I reached my hand out for his. She kept a sharp eye on him. When his hand touched mine, I jolted. "Okay, Jeff," I said. But we have to talk," I said, before leading him back to my house. Veronica stood in the corner, her eyes locked on him the entire time. "You can't just kill people. I know it's in your nature, but I can't have you killing people here. I can't bear to hear anyone else's screams." Jeff smiled. "I don't need to do it now that I'm with you," he said as he hugged me. My body tightened up. Veronica watched him carefully, making sure his hands stayed where they were. "Okay," I said. I looked at his hoodie that was covered in blood before asking him to take it off. He handed it off to me as I washed it. Veronica looked over at him. "Veronica," he said, as he smiled and went closer to her. "I've missed you so much." She leered at him. "Don't touch me." "Veronica, please don't be mad at me. You don't know how much I love you," he said. "I love her too. I couldn't bear to be without either of you. Jasmine was going to leave." Veronica looks over at me. "I said. "I decided that I had disrupted your relationship enough, and in my letter I told him I had planned to leave." "That's what sent you over the edge." Veronica looked at him. "Be that as it may, how could you kill me? I'm the one who saved your life." "I intended to join you. Honestly, I did," he said as he hugged her. She froze for a moment before returning his hug. I turned away. It was all my fault, and I wasn't going to make another mistake like that again. Life carried on as normal, until one night Jeff came home, drunk and out of control. He had just killed someone. I could see the blood on his clothes. "Jeff," I said. Veronica stood next to me as she shook her head. She put her hand out and Jeff fell asleep. I then carried him to the back room I'd been keeping him in. Pulled off his clothes, washed them. We'd wondered who we killed. It wasn't long before Veronica figured out. "A 12-year-old, she said. "I must lead her to the afterlife now." I looked. Veronica touched her hand to my forehead, and I was able to see how she died. I screamed at her, "Please, make it stop. Make it stop, please." She stopped. She pulled her hand away and the images stopped coming. "So young," she said. "It's a pity." She walked out of the house and left me alone there with Jeff. I went outside and it was raining. I just stood there. I didn't care if I caught the flu or not. I knew that it was too dangerous to keep Jeff around, despite the fact that I loved him. She loved him too, and she knew as well as I did that it might be time for him to go. I'm standing there all of a sudden before I feel something over my head. It's a red umbrella Jeff's holding. I turned to him. "It's raining, so I brought you an umbrella. I'm really sorry about how I am. I just can't help it. Ever since I've been younger, I've had this inside me. But you'll never leave me. Right?" he said, reaching out, hugging me. He gave me a kiss. My eyes filled with tears, because I knew this couldn't last any longer. I went out to the Japanese market afterwards, picking up some of our favorite things to eat, before heading home. Jeff was there waiting for me. I hugged him. Veronica showed up shortly after. I asked her where she had been all day. The girl, she said, would not go in peace. She was angry, and her spirit manifested itself as a dark spirit. A demonic energy was looming over Tokyo that I had to take care of. She looked over at Jeff before walking towards him. Smack. My eyes widened as I realized she just hit him. She was only 12. You promised us you would stop. And now we know we can't trust you. He looked over at me, looking for me to defend him, but I couldn't. Jeff, I don't think it's smart for you to stay with us anymore. It's obvious that you can't fight whatever's going on with you. And I don't blame you, but you can't stay here. Jeff smiled. A psychotic laughter began to fill my house, as my heart began to fill with fear. I looked. Veronica didn't show any fear on her face. Jeff, you spent your whole life putting others to sleep. Now it's your turn. Jeff lunged at me and proceeded to stab me repeatedly. This made me feel nothing. For the longest time, I felt like I was the one who deserved to die. So now that it was my turn, I wasn't really struggling very much. I felt his blade pierce me again and again and again before a light shot out from Veronica's hands and wound up slamming Jeff against the back wall. "Fucking gut!" he said. I looked. Be surprised if you want, but I honestly couldn't believe he called her that. "That's enough, Jeff. It's time for you to go to sleep," she said, raising her hands. A light shot out from her hands once again. This one was a red light that was in the shape of spider lilies, shooting out everywhere. I heard Jeff scream before the whole house lit up, and then he was gone. I looked back at her. It's over now. My one reason for coming back was to watch over you, and now the threat's gone, it's over. Are you going to disappear now? I said, looking over at her. She said, no, not yet. She put her hand to my chest, and all my wounds began to heal up. I wanted to stop her. I protested, but she didn't stop healing me. I felt like I was the one who deserved to be in pain, not her. She said, now that it's over, we can begin. The whole house lit up in a beautiful pink, vibrant light. I took a deep breath and woke up the next day in my bed. I looked at myself in the mirror. I still looked normal, but my ID had changed. Jasmine Green, 16 years old, high school student. Huh? I said. I went to the other room after hearing some stirring. There were 2 cats outside of a door. I looked. It was Moichi and Blackie, Veronica's cats from back when she was still alive, scratching on her door to get in. I fling the door open. Veronica's lying there asleep. The 2 of them raced up to her and started pawing at her and licking at her to get her to wake up. Veronica? I said. She woke up. So, it's true, she said, taking out this crystallized, what looked to be a daylily, but it was a crystal, and it was pink. She told me that it used to be black, and now that she'd righted the wrong, we were able to restart our lives. I would never make this mistake again. Me and her were attending a high school in Japan, and for some reason nobody questioned where our parents were, why we were by ourselves, or anything. We were able to get by pretty smoothly there as well, seeing as though we did receive funds from the school. Life was good. One day, we had a trip scheduled to go to Mount Fuji. Everybody was rigorously chanting on the bus as me and her talked about creepypastas and things like that. Veronica, in life and in death, still loved creepypastas. I spoke to her for a moment, and then I went to go back to my seat. She was sitting in the back row, and I was sitting in the front. They didn't usually care if you moved around, but however, the seat that you temporarily occupied did belong to a student, so you would be asked to return to your seat. I was sitting there. I was exhausted, but for whatever reason, I didn't want to fall asleep. A boy sitting next to me. He had long black hair, and he was wearing our standard school uniform, a white button-up shirt, and black dress pants. He said, "Just go to sleep." My eyes shot open as I looked at him. Veronica's head darted up the moment she heard these words. What did you just say? And I looked at him and realizing that although he did look similar to Jeff, he didn't have the Joker's smile, or his eyelids and things weren't burned off, so he couldn't possibly be Jeff. I took a deep breath. I said, please forgive me. Gomenasai. Someone else used to say that to me.
Really?
Yeah, really, I said, smiling. But I know you couldn't possibly be him. He was taken care of. He hugged me. Don't worry about it. And, as for being taken care of, my eyes widened. You know I told you. I'll never leave you. My breath became sharp and deep. I was frightened. Shh, don't be scared. I'm here for you. Now and forever. Now, just go to sleep.